The encounter begins, hook and suspense. It was a quiet day on Earth. The sun rose slowly over the horizon, casting its golden light across the land. People went about their normal routines, unaware of the dark shadow that loomed above. In space, far beyond the Earth's atmosphere, a fleet of alien ships was moving steadily toward the planet. The invaders had been watching Earth for years, waiting for the right time to strike. The aliens, known as the Xeron Empire, were one of the most powerful forces in the galaxy. Their technology was beyond anything Earth had ever seen. They had conquered planet after planet, effortlessly destroying all those who opposed them. Their fleet was enormous, ships that were equipped with weapons that could level entire cities in seconds. And now, they had set their sights on Earth. But what the Xeron Empire didn't know was that Earth had something they didn't expect. Humans. The leader of the Xeron fleet, General Vrex, stood in front of the massive command console aboard the flagship. His cold, calculating eyes stared at the holographic map showing the Earth below. A smug smile spread across his face. "This planet will be ours in no time," he said, his voice low and sure. "These humans are weak. We've seen their defenses. They are no match for us." He turned to his second-in-command, Commander Zolak. "Prepare the forces. We'll strike at dawn." Meanwhile, far below on Earth, a warning was being given, but it seemed almost too strange to believe. Lieutenant John Carter, a seasoned human soldier, sat in a small military command center. He was staring at a blinking red light on the communication console. He rubbed his eyes and sighed. He had been up for hours, analyzing reports of strange activity in the sky. Satellites had detected something, but no one was sure what. It was too far away to be certain. Suddenly, the console beeped loudly, catching his attention. A message appeared on the screen. It was encrypted, but the sender was clear. It was from a mysterious group known only as the Earth Watchers. The message read, "The Xeron Empire is coming. They believe you are weak. They believe they will win. But you must know this. Never underestimate a human soldier. Fight with everything you have." The message ended abruptly. No signature, no other information. Lieutenant Carter stared at the screen in disbelief. Who were the Earth Watchers? How did they know about the alien fleet? More importantly, how could they be so sure that humans could win? He felt a chill run down his spine, but he quickly shook it off. Carter had been a soldier long enough to know that fear had no place in battle. He had seen dangerous enemies before, but nothing like this. His gut told him that the coming battle would be unlike anything humanity had ever faced. "Sir," a voice interrupted his thoughts. It was Sergeant Thompson, one of his most trusted soldiers. "We've detected the fleet. They're on their way." Carter stood up quickly. His mind raced. The Earth Watchers had been right. The aliens were coming, and it wasn't just some random attack. It was an invasion. They weren't just trying to conquer Earth. They were planning to wipe out humanity completely. "We need to warn the others," Carter said. "Get the word out. Tell every base, every soldier, to prepare for war. We don't know what we're up against, but we will fight." He turned to the screen again, staring at the blinking red light. The aliens were getting closer. A full-scale invasion was imminent. In space, General Vrex's fleet moved into position, ready to make their first move. His ships were armed and ready. Earth's defenses had been weak in the past, and the Xeron Empire was sure it would be an easy victory. He watched as the massive ships aligned themselves, preparing to unleash their deadly firepower. "Commander Zolak," General Vrex called out, "prepare the bombardment. We will destroy their cities first. Once we break their will, the humans will fall in line." But Zolak, ever the cautious one, hesitated. "General," he said, his voice filled with uncertainty. "What if the humans are more capable than we expect? What if they're not as weak as we think?" Vrex scoffed at the idea. "Do not waste my time with such thoughts, Zolak. These humans are primitive. Their armies are no match for us. You will see." As the alien fleet prepared to launch their attack, Lieutenant Carter and his team made their final preparations. The Earth's military was doing everything it could to ready the defenses. In a few short hours, the world would be at war. But Carter could not shake the feeling that something bigger was at play. The Earth Watcher's warning echoed in his mind: never underestimate a human soldier. He couldn't explain why, but Carter felt a sense of determination and strength building within him. Humans might not have the same technology as the Xeran Empire, but they had something far stronger: their will to survive. As the first alien ship fired its weapon and a massive explosion rocked the Earth's surface, Carter knew one thing for sure: the aliens had made a huge mistake. They had underestimated humanity, and that would cost them dearly. The first clash. Unexpected strength. The ground shook as the first alien bombardment hit. The sky above turned dark, and the sound of explosions echoed across the landscape. Cities that had been thriving just hours ago now lay in ruins, their buildings crumbling under the alien attack. The air was thick with smoke, and the streets filled with chaos as civilians fled in every direction. But amid the panic and destruction, Lieutenant Carter's unit was ready. The humans had known the alien attack was coming, and they had prepared as best as they could. Carter's squad had been stationed on the outskirts of the city, just outside the blast zone, and they quickly rallied to join the larger defense force. "Move out now," Carter ordered, his voice calm and commanding. His team, fully geared up in their combat armor, followed him without hesitation. They had trained for moments like this, and now it was time to show what humanity was capable of. In the distance, the massive alien ships hovered over the city, their weapons aimed and ready. A few alien fighters buzzed around, surveying the destruction below, but they hadn't anticipated the fierce resistance coming from the humans. "Carter, I'm seeing movement ahead," Sergeant Thompson said through the communication line. "It's them, the aliens. They've landed." "Hold your ground," Carter replied, his grip tightening on his rifle. "We're not backing down. Let them come." The alien soldiers, a ruthless and terrifying species, began to emerge from their ships. They were tall and armored, their weapons shining with deadly energy. Each one seemed like a walking tank, carrying enough firepower to decimate a battalion of soldiers. But they weren't prepared for the fight that awaited them. The human soldiers, led by Carter, used the terrain to their advantage. They had built makeshift barricades and fortified positions in the surrounding buildings, preparing for a guerrilla-style defense. As the aliens advanced, they found themselves met with a barrage of gunfire, grenades, and carefully planned traps. The aliens, expecting an easy victory, were caught off guard. Their superior technology was no match for the humans' resourcefulness and determination. Every corner of the city became a battlefield, with human soldiers moving swiftly and unpredictably. "Hold the line," Carter shouted as he ducked behind cover, taking out two aliens with precise shots. The aliens were trying to adapt, but the humans' tactics were too effective. Carter's team had been trained to fight in urban warfare, and it showed in the way they moved and fought. The aliens retaliated with their advanced weaponry, firing energy beams that melted through walls and sent explosions rippling through the streets. But despite the chaos, the human soldiers fought back with everything they had. "Sergeant, take out that sniper," Carter ordered, pointing to an alien positioned high on a building. Thompson nodded and quickly moved into position, taking down the alien with a well-placed shot. Carter's mind raced as he assessed the situation. The aliens were still advancing, but they hadn't anticipated the fierce resistance they were facing. The humans were holding their ground, pushing back, not giving an inch. The battle was far from over, but for the first time since the invasion began, Carter felt a glimmer of hope. The aliens had made one critical mistake. They had underestimated humanity's ability to fight back. The Xeran Empire believed that the human spirit was weak, but Carter knew better. Humans fought for survival, for their families, and for their freedom. "We've got this, guys," Carter muttered to himself. "They're not ready for us, In the heart of the battlefield, Carter's team had pushed the aliens back from their initial landing zone, causing them to regroup. The alien commanders were starting to panic, unsure of how the humans had managed to hold on for so long. General Vrex, aboard his flagship, watched the chaos unfold below him, his face twisted with disbelief. "Commander Zalek," Vrex said, his voice filled with frustration. "Why are we not winning? We should have crushed them by now." Zalek hesitated, his eyes scanning the reports. "Sir, the humans, they're stronger than we expected. Their tactics, their resilience, it's unlike anything we've seen before." Vrex slammed his fist against the console. "Impossible. We've defeated entire civilizations with ease. These humans are nothing." But as the battle raged on, it became clear that the humans were anything but weak. They had found a way to fight back, and they weren't about to give up. Carter's team, along with the rest of the human forces, continued to press forward. It wasn't just about surviving anymore. It was about winning. As the sun began to set, the aliens finally called for a retreat, pulling their forces back to regroup. They had suffered more losses than they had anticipated, and the humans were proving to be a far more formidable enemy than they could have imagined. Carter stood on the edge of a building, overlooking the battlefield. His heart pounded with adrenaline, but he couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. This was just the beginning. The aliens had come with the intent to conquer, but they were learning quickly that humanity wasn't so easily defeated. The battle was far from over, but the humans had already made their mark. And General Vrex, for the first time, was beginning to realize that the Xeron Empire had made a huge mistake. They had underestimated a human soldier, and that was something they would soon regret. The realization: a soldier's resilience. As the night fell over the battlefield, an eerie silence followed the retreat of the alien forces. The smoke still hung in the air, and the distant sounds of sirens and emergency broadcasts echoed across the shattered city. Lieutenant Carter and his squad regrouped in a secure building, their bodies covered in dirt and sweat, their minds still racing with adrenaline. They had won the first battle, but Carter knew this was just the beginning. The aliens, though stunned, would not give up so easily. Their advanced technology and vast numbers made them a formidable enemy. Carter wiped his brow and glanced at his soldiers, who were catching their breath, tending to wounds, and checking equipment. "Good work today," Carter said, his voice calm but firm. "But don't get too comfortable. This was only their first wave. We fought some time, but they'll be back. We need to keep our guard up." Sergeant Thompson, his face streaked with dirt and blood, nodded. "We're ready, sir. We've got their number. They think we're weak, but we've shown them we can hit back." Carter's eyes narrowed as he looked out the window. The alien fleet was still hovering above Earth, a dark reminder of the war that had only just begun. He had heard enough stories of alien invasions to know that this wasn't going to be a quick battle. The Xeron Empire didn't lose easily, and they certainly didn't forgive mistakes. He turned back to his team. "We're going to need more help. We can't do this alone." Outside, the alien fleet was regrouping. General Vrex stood in the command center of his flagship, his face twisted in fury. His soldiers had been forced to retreat, and the humans had fought back with surprising strength. It was a setback he hadn't expected. "This is unacceptable," Vrex shouted, his voice booming through the command room. "We are the Xeron Empire. We are invincible. How could a few primitive humans push us back?" Commander Zalek, standing at attention, tried to calm the general. "Sir, the humans are fighting back fiercely. They used unorthodox tactics, and their soldiers are far more resourceful than we anticipated." Vrex slammed his fist onto the console, his anger palpable. "Enough. We'll crush them. We will not allow this planet to stand in defiance of the Xeron Empire. Order the fleet to prepare for a full-scale bombardment. We'll destroy their cities and break their spirit. Once they see their civilization falling apart, they will surrender." But as the orders were relayed to the fleet, Zalak hesitated. "General, perhaps we should reconsider. The humans, they are showing resilience we did not expect. What if they are more than just a nuisance?" Vrex shot him a sharp look. "They are nothing but insects. We will squash them underfoot. Do not doubt our superiority." Back on Earth, Carter and his team worked tirelessly to prepare for the next wave of the alien assault. They had set up defenses, strengthened their positions, and made sure they were ready for anything the aliens might throw at them. The feeling of victory from the previous battle was starting to fade, replaced by the cold realization that the true test was yet to come. Carter sat at a small table, reviewing tactical maps and reports. His mind raced with strategies and plans. He knew that the aliens would come at them harder this time. They would not underestimate humanity again. But Carter also knew one thing: humans were fighters. They fought not just for survival, but for what they believed in. And they would not back down easily. "Sir," Thompson said, walking up to him, "we've got word from the higher-ups. Reinforcements are on the way. It's not much, but it should help." Carter looked up, nodding. "It's a start. But we need more. We need every soldier we can get." The days that followed were filled with intense preparation. Humans across the world began to organize and fight back. The alien invasion wasn't just a battle between armies. It was a battle for the very survival of the human race. And Carter knew that the human spirit, fueled by the will to live and protect, was the one thing the aliens hadn't counted on. As the days turned into nights and back into days, the tension grew. The alien fleet was gathering strength, and they were preparing for another assault. General Vrex, confident in his victory, had no idea what was coming. The humans were organizing, becoming stronger, and more determined by the hour. Carter stood outside, looking at the horizon. A sense of quiet strength filled him. It wasn't just about tactics or technology. It was about resilience. He thought about the message from the Earth Watchers: never underestimate a human soldier. It was a warning, yes, but also a promise. Humans had been pushed to the brink, but they weren't going to fall without a fight. When the next alien attack came, Carter was ready. His soldiers were ready. And though they had faced devastation, they were not broken. The Xeron Empire would soon learn that the cost of underestimating the human soldier was far greater than they could ever imagine. The turning point: humans strike back. The calm after the initial clash didn't last long. The alien fleet, still looming ominously over Earth, prepared to unleash its full power in a second, more destructive wave. General Vrex had grown increasingly impatient. The humans had proven themselves stubborn, but in his mind, their resistance was nothing more than a temporary obstacle. He had witnessed countless civilizations fall before the might of the Xeron Empire, and he believed this one would be no different. "Prepare for bombardment," Vrex ordered coldly, his voice unwavering. "We will obliterate their cities. Earth will bow before us." But beneath the surface, there was a flicker of doubt. Commander Zalak had been growing more concerned with each passing day. The humans were not like the others they had conquered. Their resilience was unlike anything he had seen, and their unpredictability was unsettling. But Zalak's concerns were dismissed, as Vrex's arrogance clouded his judgment. On the ground, however, the humans were anything but defeated. Lieutenant Carter's team had worked tirelessly, and the reports from around the world were beginning to show signs of something truly remarkable. Despite the odds, humanity was coming together in ways that no one had expected. What began as isolated pockets of resistance had now turned into a unified global effort. Countries were sending troops and resources to join the fight, and the strength of human determination was beginning to shine through. Carter stood at a command center, reviewing the plans for the counteroffensive. His mind was focused, his determination unwavering. The alien fleet might have superior technology, but the humans had something more: their will to fight. "We can't just wait for them to attack again," Carter said, addressing his team. "We need to take the fight to them. We have one shot at this." Sergeant Thompson, who had been working alongside Carter throughout the battle, nodded in agreement. We've studied their movements. They're not as organized as they think. Their ships are massive, but they're not invincible. We have the advantage of surprise. Carter looked over the map, eyes scanning the alien positions. They had located a weak spot in the fleet, an area where the alien ships were clustered together, still unsure of the humans' true strength. It was a long shot, but it was the only chance they had. Tonight, we hit them hard, Carter said. We'll use everything we've got. A coordinated strike, ground forces and air support. We break through their defenses, and we show them that humanity isn't just fighting to survive. We're fighting to win. The plan was risky. They had no idea how the alien fleet would react to such an aggressive move, but Carter believed it was their best chance. The time for defense was over. It was time for humanity to strike back. The next few hours were a blur of activity as soldiers prepared for the assault. Fighter jets were fueled and loaded with missiles. Tanks were rolled out into position. Carter's team, along with other human forces, gathered their weapons and gear, ready for the fight of their lives. As the alien ships continued to hover over the planet, seemingly unaware of the human counteroffensive being readied beneath them, the silence of the battlefield was broken by the roar of jet engines. The humans were coming. The first wave of airstrikes hit the alien ships with incredible precision, targeting the weak points in their armor. Explosions lit up the sky as missiles struck their targets. The aliens were caught off guard. The attack was fast, brutal, and relentless. Human forces, using the element of surprise, launched a series of well-coordinated strikes against the alien fleet. Ground forces moved in, taking advantage of the chaos above them, using guerrilla tactics and hitting the aliens where it hurt most. Carter led the charge on the ground, his soldiers moving swiftly through the streets, taking out alien patrols and sabotaging their equipment. He moved with purpose, the weight of the world on his shoulders, but his mind remained clear. The battle was fierce, and the stakes were higher than ever. But for the first time since the invasion began, Carter felt a surge of hope. "We've got them on the ropes," Sergeant Thompson shouted, his voice filled with excitement. "They didn't expect us to come at them like this." The aliens were starting to panic. Their once unshakable confidence had begun to crumble. The human forces, who had been written off as nothing more than prey, were proving to be a formidable enemy. The Xeran Empire's technological superiority was no match for the relentless drive and ingenuity of humanity. General Vrex watched the chaos unfold from his flagship, his face contorted in disbelief. "What is this? How are they doing this?" he demanded. "Sir, we've lost contact with several of our ground units," an officer reported, his voice trembling. "The humans, they've breached our defenses." Vrex's eyes narrowed. The humans had outwitted him, something he hadn't believed was possible. His pride had clouded his judgment, and now the Xeran Empire was facing a very real threat. He had underestimated the resilience of these humans, and now they were turning the tide of the war. Carter's team continued to push forward, taking out alien strongholds and disrupting their command centers. Every victory was a reminder that the humans were not just fighting for survival, they were fighting for something more. They were fighting for their freedom, for their future. As the sun began to rise over the battlefield, the humans had made significant progress. The alien forces were reeling, their once imposing fleet now scattered and vulnerable. General Vrex's plans had been thrown into disarray, and the Xeran Empire was beginning to realize that the humans were not so easily conquered. The tide of the war had shifted. The humans had struck back, and they weren't going to stop until they had driven the aliens off Earth for good. The battle for survival. Unexpected tactics. As the human forces pressed on, it was clear that the alien empire had underestimated them, something they would soon regret. The momentum of the war had shifted in favor of humanity, but it wasn't just their numbers or weapons that made the difference. It was their ability to adapt and use tactics the aliens hadn't anticipated. Lieutenant Carter and his squad were now deep inside the aliens' heavily guarded command center. They had breached the outer layers of the alien fortress, and the deeper they went, the more they realized how unprepared the aliens were for a human-style fight. The invaders had built their technology for efficiency and power, but they had never considered how dangerous humans could be when they fought to protect everything they loved. "We're almost there," Carter said as he crouched behind a pillar, signaling to his team. His voice was low, but his determination was evident. "The heart of their operation is just ahead. We hit them here, and we'll have them on the run." "Understood, sir," Sergeant Thompson replied, scanning the corridor. "I'll lead the way." The alien fortress was a labyrinth of metal and cold, sterile rooms. It felt almost like a tomb, the silence and the cold architecture serving as a constant reminder of how alien the invaders truly were. But as the human soldiers moved deeper into the structure, they quickly discovered that the invaders' technology, though advanced, was not infallible. The aliens had relied heavily on their automated defense systems, but they hadn't expected the humans to use their environment to their advantage. Carter had learned long ago that wars were won with more than just weapons. It was about knowing how to outthink your enemy. As they moved down a narrow hallway, Carter gave a subtle nod to Thompson. "Plant the charges. Let's bring their communications network down." Thompson moved quickly, placing explosive charges on key relay points. The explosions were small but precise, disrupting the aliens' command chain and causing widespread confusion. The human soldiers had learned quickly how to fight their technologically superior enemies, using stealth and surprise in ways the aliens had never encountered. At the same time, air support arrived, and fighter jets swooped down, striking the alien ships from above. The humans had learned to coordinate their attacks, ground forces and airstrikes working in harmony, as if they were one unified army. The aliens, for all their technology, were not prepared for such a well-coordinated offensive. One of the alien commanders, stationed in a separate control room, watched in disbelief as human tactics unfolded before him. He had always thought that brute force was the answer, that superior firepower would win the day. But now, he saw humans fighting with a resourcefulness that no machine could predict. "The human soldiers are too unpredictable," the commander muttered, his voice laced with frustration. "We've underestimated them. We need to adapt, quickly." But it was already too late. The humans had gained too much ground, and the alien defenses were crumbling under the relentless assault. Carter's team continued their advance, taking out key targets and disabling the alien technology. Their goal wasn't just to survive. It was to end the invasion once and for all. "We've got the main reactor in sight," Carter said over the comms, his voice filled with quiet determination. "Once we destroy this, the rest of their fleet will fall apart. Stay focused." Sergeant Thompson, leading a small group of soldiers, nodded. They moved carefully through the alien complex, watching for any signs of resistance. The closer they got to the reactor, the more intense the alien fire became. The aliens had begun to regroup, throwing everything they had left at the human soldiers. But it was clear that the tide had already turned. The alien forces were disorganized, their chain of command fractured, and their once imposing technology was no longer as effective. As they reached the heart of the alien fortress, Carter could hear the hum of the reactor in the distance. They were getting close. "Take cover," Carter shouted as enemy fire rained down on them. The aliens had set up a final line of defense around the reactor. The battle intensified, but Carter's team held their ground. They used the aliens' own weapons against them, setting traps and outflanking their positions. The humans were outnumbered, but they fought with a ferocity that the aliens couldn't match. The moment finally arrived. Thompson, with a steady hand, placed the final explosive charge on the alien reactor. "Charge set, sir." Carter nodded. "Get back. It's time to end this." The blast was deafening, and the entire alien complex shook as the reactor erupted in a brilliant explosion. The shockwave sent debris flying through the air. and the alien control systems began to malfunction. The once pristine fortress now lay in ruins. "We did it," Thompson said, his voice filled with awe and exhaustion. But Carter wasn't celebrating. He knew that this victory, while crucial, was only part of the war. The aliens might have lost their key command center, but they were still out there, regrouping, and they would come back stronger. "We've broken their backbone," Carter said, looking over the destruction. "But this isn't over. We've got to keep pushing. Earth's survival depends on it." As the human soldiers moved out of the wreckage of the alien base, Carter took a moment to reflect on the unexpected tactics that had turned the tide of the war. It wasn't just about superior weapons or technology. It was about adaptability, creativity, and the will to survive. The alien fleet, scattered and disoriented, would now have to regroup. But as Carter looked toward the horizon, he knew one thing. Humanity had proven that it was not to be underestimated. The aliens might have thought they could destroy Earth, but they had learned the hard way that the true strength of humanity was far greater than any weapon. And as long as there was breath in their lungs, the human soldiers would fight to protect their world. As the alien reactor exploded, shockwaves rippled through the atmosphere, shaking the ground beneath the human soldiers' feet. The massive facility that had once seemed so impenetrable was now reduced to nothing more than a smoking ruin. Carter and his team took a moment to catch their breath as they witnessed the destruction. "We've crippled them," Thompson said, his voice filled with a sense of accomplishment. "The reactor's down, and their command systems are offline. This should slow them down." Carter nodded but remained focused. "We've made a dent, but this is just the beginning. We need to press forward while they're disoriented. The longer we wait, the more time they'll have to regroup." The alien fleet, already scattered after the explosion, now faced a serious challenge. The humans had proven they were capable of disabling their most crucial systems, throwing the invaders into chaos. Still, the aliens were relentless and adaptable. Even in disarray, they began to regroup and reorganize quickly, sending reinforcements to their damaged ships and preparing for another wave of attacks. "We need to hit them while they're vulnerable," Carter said, turning back to his soldiers. "If we can take out their fleet's flagship, they'll have no leader. Without orders, they'll fall apart." Sergeant Thompson looked at him. "You're thinking we go for the big one?" Carter's eyes hardened. "We have to. It's our best shot at ending this war. We take out the heart, and the rest of the body will collapse." The battle had taken its toll on everyone, but Carter's resolve remained unshaken. His soldiers had fought bravely and were ready to continue. They had come this far. There was no turning back now. As they made their way to the alien fleet's launch site, Carter couldn't help but feel a rush of pride in his team. Each soldier knew the risks of what lay ahead, but they were all determined to finish what they had started. The aliens had invaded their home, and they wouldn't leave until they had secured victory. The alien flagship was massive, more heavily fortified than anything they had faced so far. But as the human soldiers crept closer, they began to realize that the alien command center was less coordinated than before. The aliens had already lost key ships, and their chain of command had fractured. It was becoming clear that the human tactics were working. "We can do this," Thompson said, his voice resolute. Carter grinned. "We've already proven that we can." As they entered the final stage of their operation, the human soldiers launched a surprise assault on the flagship. Using guerrilla tactics, they targeted weak points in the alien ship's defenses and made quick work of the automated turrets. The chaos that erupted within the alien ranks was almost surreal. Their advanced technology, once thought impenetrable, was now showing signs of vulnerability under the pressure of human ingenuity. "Move, move, move," Carter barked as they pushed forward, dodging energy blasts and explosions. They were close now, so close to the heart of the alien ship. It was a race against time, but they were determined to succeed. The flagship's control room was heavily guarded, but nothing could stop the determined human soldiers. With swift and decisive action, they breached the control room and took out the remaining alien commanders. Carter stood at the center of the ship, his breath coming in short gasps, his rifle aimed and ready. "This is it," Carter said, his voice steady. "We're taking down the Xeron Empire today." The team quickly set explosives around the ship's critical systems, preparing for one final blow. As the countdown to detonation began, the human soldiers made their way back to their extraction point, leaving the alien flagship to implode in on itself. The moment the explosion rocked the flagship, it sent shockwaves across the battlefield. The alien fleet, now without its command structure, began to disintegrate. The once mighty Xeron Empire was in chaos. Their invasion had been effectively crushed, and the humans had emerged victorious. Carter and his team stood on the surface of the Earth, watching the alien fleet retreat into the vastness of space. The sky, once filled with the ominous presence of the invaders, was now clear. The humans had fought for their survival and had proven that no force, no matter how powerful, could break their spirit. "We did it," Thompson said, his voice filled with awe. Carter nodded, looking out across the battlefield. The Earth had been saved, but the cost had been high. Soldiers had fallen. Cities had been destroyed. The scars of war would remain for a long time. But one thing was certain: humanity had shown the galaxy what they were capable of. "We've won this battle," Carter said, his voice full of pride. "But we can't forget that we're not just fighting for survival anymore. We're fighting for something bigger. We're fighting for our future." The victory was hard-earned, but it was a victory nonetheless. The Xeron Empire would think twice before ever underestimating the human soldier again. The mistake: underestimating the human soldier. In the aftermath of the battle, Earth was left to breathe a collective sigh of relief. The alien forces had been routed, their flagship destroyed, and their leadership shattered. The remnants of the Xeron Empire's fleet limped back into the vastness of space, having suffered a blow unlike any other they had faced. For the first time in their long history of conquest, they had been defeated by a species they had believed to be insignificant. General Vrex sat in the command center of his flagship, staring at the reports coming in from his scattered fleet. His face was grim, his fists clenched in frustration. He had never anticipated this outcome. The humans, primitive, weak creatures, as he had called them, had turned the tide of the war. They had proven far more resilient than he had ever imagined. How could this have happened? Vrex muttered to himself, his voice filled with disbelief. "We are the Xeron Empire. How could we lose to these humans?" Commander Zelak, standing silently at attention, knew better than to speak too quickly. But the silence was unbearable, and he finally ventured, "General, it seems the humans were not as weak as we believed. They fought with a determination we have not seen in any other species. Their tactics, so unpredictable, so unorthodox, have proven effective." Vrex turned to him sharply, his eyes burning with anger. "You think I don't know that? I led this fleet into battle, and I underestimated the human spirit. This is my mistake, and it will be my undoing." Zelak took a careful step forward. "Perhaps it's not too late, General. We could regroup, retreat, and come up with a new strategy." "No," Vrex shouted, his voice filled with a dangerous edge. "We have lost everything. The humans have taken out our command structure. We will not recover from this. Our empire is broken." The alien general slammed his fist onto the console, his rage evident. The Xeron Empire had prided itself on its invincibility, and now, in a single, crushing defeat, that pride had been shattered. It wasn't just about the loss of soldiers or ships. It was about their arrogance, their belief that they could destroy any civilization that stood in their way. They had made the mistake of thinking that humans were no different from the countless other species they had conquered. Back on Earth, the humans were beginning to process the enormity of their victory. The war was over, at least for now. Lieutenant Carter and his team, though exhausted, stood in the command center, watching the feed from Earth's orbital defense satellites. The alien fleet was retreating, their ships drifting back into the void of space, nursing their wounds and licking their pride. "We did it," Thompson said, his voice a mix of awe and disbelief. "We actually beat them." Carter's face remained stoic, though inside, he could feel the weight of the victory. It had been a hard-fought battle, and so many had given their lives to secure it. But he knew that this wasn't just about military strategy or weapons. It was about humanity's refusal to bow down to a force that thought it could crush them without consequence. "We didn't just fight back," Carter said, his eyes scanning the room. "We made them understand something. They made the biggest mistake of their lives when they underestimated us. They thought they could wipe us out like every other species they conquered. But humanity isn't like that. We don't give up. We don't break. And we'll never stop fighting for what's ours." As Carter spoke, his thoughts turned to the future. The humans had won this battle, but the war had changed them forever. The world had been scared by the invasion. Cities destroyed, lives lost. But through it all, humans had shown a strength that would be remembered across the galaxy. The Exiran Empire had learned that no matter how advanced their technology, no matter how powerful their ships, they could not defeat the human spirit. Meanwhile, the alien general, Vrex, sat in his shattered command room, still haunted by the magnitude of his mistake. He had underestimated humanity. And now, that error was costing him everything. The Exiran Empire had always seen itself as invincible, but in the blink of an eye, a small planet full of resilient humans had shown them otherwise. It wasn't just a loss of ships or soldiers. It was a blow to their very identity, a reminder that no empire, no matter how vast, could ever be truly invulnerable. "Commander," Vrex said, his voice quieter now, filled with regret. "What do we do now?" Zelak looked at him, his expression somber. "I fear it's too late, General. The humans have shown us that we cannot conquer them, not without understanding them. Perhaps it's time to reconsider our approach." But it was too late. The human soldiers had already proven that they would never be conquered. The Exiran Empire had made its greatest mistake. They had underestimated a human soldier, and it was a mistake they would never recover from. Conclusion: the aftermath and the cost of war. The war had ended, but the scars it left behind would never fade. The final alien retreat had marked the end of the invasion, but it was only the beginning of a new chapter for humanity. Earth, though victorious, was now a world in recovery. The devastation was impossible to ignore. The cities that had been reduced to rubble, the countless lives lost, and the families torn apart by the brutality of the invasion. The cost of war was something that would forever haunt the survivors. Lieutenant Carter stood at the edge of the battlefield, looking over the wreckage of the alien ships that had once loomed so menacingly above the planet. They were now nothing more than twisted remains, the once glowing energy cores now silent. The alien fleet, so advanced and seemingly invincible, was now nothing more than a shadow of its former self. "We did it," Sergeant Thompson said, his voice quiet, almost in disbelief. "We actually won." Carter didn't answer at first. He stood in silence, his mind racing as he thought about the lives that had been lost, the battles fought, and the future that lay ahead. Humanity had won, yes, but it had come at a heavy price. So many soldiers, so many civilians, had given their lives for this moment. The victory would be remembered, but so too would the sacrifice. "We won," Carter finally said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "But we can't forget the cost. The people we lost, the cities destroyed. It's all a part of the price of our survival." The remnants of the human forces had begun to rebuild. Troops were sent to the cities that had been devastated by the alien attacks, helping survivors and organizing recovery efforts. Governments and world leaders, previously divided by their differences, now worked together to heal the planet and ensure that the invasion was never repeated. But the victory was bittersweet. As humanity celebrated, the wounds of the war remained fresh. The world had been saved, but the scars from the invasion would take generations to heal. The stories of bravery and resilience were told far and wide, but so too were the tales of loss and hardship. The price of survival was heavy, but humanity had endured. In the weeks following the battle, the truth about the Saran Empire's retreat began to spread across the galaxy. News of the human victory reached other civilizations, and the galaxy took note. The Xeran Empire had once been the most feared power in the universe, but they had learned a hard lesson. Humanity was not a species to be underestimated, and for the first time in history, Earth stood as an example to the galaxy, not just for its victory, but for its unyielding spirit. The message was clear. Humans might be small in comparison to the vastness of the universe, but they were capable of extraordinary things. They had fought for their survival and had proven that no empire, no matter how vast or powerful, could crush the human spirit. As the dust settled, Carter found himself standing in front of a memorial, a monument to the soldiers who had given their lives to protect Earth. The faces of the fallen were etched in stone, their names forever immortalized. Carter's eyes lingered on the names, a quiet sorrow settling in his chest. These were the heroes who had made the ultimate sacrifice for humanity's freedom. Their courage would never be forgotten. "Do you think they'll ever come back?" Thompson asked, standing beside Carter. Carter shook his head slowly. "I don't think so. Not after what we've done." The Xeran Empire made the mistake of thinking we were easy prey. They learned the hard way that you can't just take what you want. Earth isn't a place to conquer. It's a place to respect. The human forces had shown their strength, not just in battle, but in their ability to rise from the ashes and rebuild. Earth had been tested in the most extreme way possible, and it had passed with flying colors. The invasion had taken its toll, but it had also forged a new unity among the nations of the world. Humanity had emerged stronger, more determined than ever. And for Lieutenant Carter, it wasn't just about the victory. It was about what it represented, the unwavering resilience of the human spirit. The aliens had made a mistake, one that would echo throughout the galaxy for centuries to come. They had underestimated a human soldier, and that was a mistake they would never make again. As Carter looked up at the sky, now clear and free of alien ships, he felt a sense of peace. The battle was over. Humanity had won. And for the first time in a long time, the future looked bright.